So today I'm looking at Herbert West Reanimator Part 3, 6 Shots by Midnight. This series was released one after another with cliffhangers in a series of different magazine issues. And just like TV shows are released now with cliffhangers to try to keep you to keep watching, these were released so that you could keep reading. When I initially read them back in May, I read them all in a straight order, and I found the repetitiveness annoying, but now I am reading them one after another with breaks, and it is much more tolerable. So I highly recommend that you do it that way, that you read it with breaks, even just short breaks in between, so that the recaps are helpful to you rather than just seeming like they're spending half of the story catching you back up. So in this case, we got Herbert West and his friend, who's the main character in this, and the first two episodes were about them being in college and just after college, and now they are doctors. They have their established doctor practice, and they are sharing a house, and they've chosen a house somewhere out far from everyone else so that they could keep bringing in dead bodies and working on them and doing their practice of trying to turn them into zombies or trying to turn them into fully reanimated characters, however you want to look at it. They're in Bolton, which is an actual town in Massachusetts. They have a worsted mills in them, a mill town, which is also very common in Massachusetts. So it's based on sort of real life. They are very derogatory towards the locals in these mills about being very low intelligence and not worth caring much about. And out of the first three stories, this is the one that really leans strongly into racist kinds of issues. So if you have thoughts about that type of area, just be prepared that it's coming. And you could say on one hand that Lovecraft was writing in a time more than a century ago, but you can also say that there were plenty of people during Lovecraft's times that had issues with the way that he was writing. So this was not normal writing for his time period. This was frowned upon in his time period and is absolutely frowned upon in our current time period. So these two doctors are getting their hands on any local deaths and trying to reanimate them and trying to bring them back to life and having various realms of sometimes it doesn't work at all, sometimes they maybe get someone to open their eyes and that's it. And they just keep practicing at it. So the mill hands had frequent clashes and stabbings, and they luckily die sometimes, so that then makes the two doctors able to have some guinea pigs for their experiments. And they want them to be incredibly fresh because they found out from previous times that if the person decays for too long that they aren't able to do much of anything at all with them. So it says that they had good luck with them. They had some failures, some chivalry, some worked, some didn't work. And in March, they had a boxing match. Not that they didn't personally have a boxing match, but a boxing match was held in the area, an illegal boxing match. And the doctors were called because the boxing match went awry. So there's one who is a Kid O'Brien, who is still alive but afraid, and the other one, Buck Robinson, the Harlem Smoke. A Negro had been knocked out. All right. So just be prepared that this is not an appropriate way to talk about people. Says he was a loathsome, gorilla-like thing with abnormally long arms which I could not help calling 4 legs, and a face that conjured up thoughts of unspeakable Congo secrets and tom-tom poundings from under an eerie moon. The body must have looked even worse in life, but the world holds many ugly things. So they are really leaning into the many tropes here. And this is the way that Lovecraft was. This isn't like a one-off that you can say, oh, he wasn't actually like this. No, he wrote like this quite a lot. So it is a shame that the other things that he writes that are interesting to read are then tainted by this kind of thought pattern and language. And I'm sure we could say that about a number of artists out there, writers and poets and other people that have talent in some area, but are also serious flaws in the way that they look at humanity as a whole. So the two doctors bring this person back and they try to put solutions into his arm and it doesn't work. It even says that every solution we injected into its black arm, solutions prepared from experience with white specimens only. So there's even that thought that the black specimens are so vastly different than white specimens that the liquids would not work. So they bury the non-responsive person. And then we hear the next day that there's a local Italian couple and the woman and the child's gone missing. And the mother is very stressed about this and is going hysterical. And she ends up dying because she is so upset about her missing child. The husband is now threatening to kill the doctors for not finding the child and not saving the wife and all of that kind of stuff. So the two doctors end up going to sleep and having issues falling asleep because they're worried about all of these different things going on. And they're worried about the cops hunting for the missing child and maybe finding the body of the boxer that they didn't really bury very well, and so on. And then they hear noises at the back door. So they go down the stairs with a revolver and an electric flashlight. When they open it up, and then West ends up shooting the creature 6 times in the chest because he is so scared. And it's neither Italian nor policeman. Looming hideously against the spectral moon was a gigantic, misshapen thing not to be imagined save in nightmares, a glassy-eyed, ink-black apparition nearly on all fours, covered with bits of mold, leaves, and vines, foul with caked blood, and having between its glistening teeth a snow-white, terrible, cylindrical object terminating in a tiny hand. So now this black vampire zombie boxer is eating little Italian children. So this whole episode leans very heavily into a number of crazy Italian people going hysterically with emotions, and boxer black men just beating people savagely and then dying and still being savage. So there's a lot to be concerned about in this episode. Never mind that the two main characters are trying to resurrect bodies without caring too much about how they feel or causing them pain or anything else like that. So what are my thoughts about this? We know what Lovecraft is going into all of this, and there are some stories where I am able to enjoy the story part of it and sort of put to the side that Lovecraft had many cultural issues in the way he viewed things. But in this particular segment of it, I think it stands out so much to me that I just did not enjoy this segment at all. And I suppose I will move on to the next one and see how it is. But I think this segment here could be the one that just makes this whole story sequence not one I would go back to. So let me know what your thoughts are about this. I think it's important to read them all to get a sense of the overall scope of the author. It doesn't really help to pick and choose which things you're going to read and say, oh, the rest don't matter. It's good to know the full output of a author and to understand their whole worldview. But in terms of going back and finding things to build on or to work from, this would definitely not be this. This would be down at the bottom of my list. So again, I'd love to hear your thoughts.